Hello, Algebra 1 students, and welcome back to problem 35 from your Algebra 1 Semester 2 final exam. Problem 35 is actually pretty recent for us. It came from lesson 10.5, which was the end of our non-factorable quadratics. And they want to know what is the vertex of this function. Well, pretty recently, I think in problem 33, I said I almost didn't make a video because the vertex was so easy. Well, problem 35 is not that case, because problem 35 isn't in vertex form. We need to recognize that problem 35 is in our standard form quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c. And we actually have two ways to find the vertex for this. I'm going to demonstrate one way, and then really cross it out and show you the way I'd expect you to do it. So the first way is we know that this parabola has a negative a value, so we know it's going to be going in a downwards direction. So what you could do is you could find the value of the two zeros, which means you would set this equation equal to 0 and you'd solve. I have a sinking suspicion that this problem is probably going to be a non-factorable one, meaning you can't use that box method, you can't factor. And so you'd probably have to use the quadratic formula or completing the square. And completing the square, there's not a 1 in front, so really it's just the quadratic formula, which means you'd probably get some pretty gross decimals as your answer, but you would get these, right? You'd get something here and then something here. And then once you had those gross decimals, you'd have to figure out what's exactly in between those two by adding them together and dividing by 2. And that would give you the h value of your vertex. Then you substitute it in to find the k. So that's all fine and dandy, and it will work, but it's a lot of work, which is why in 10.5 we found a faster way to do this. And the faster way to do this is kind of based off the quadratic formula. So I'm going to quickly remind you of what the quadratic formula looks like. It's something you should have memorized for your final exam, but we're not going to use all of it for this problem, right? All over by 2 a.m. There we go. In 10.5, we actually took the solutions of the quadratic formula, we added them together and divided by 2. And when we did that, it ended up canceling out the square root portion, and it just left us with negative b over 2a. And we said to find the vertex then, all we actually have to use for the h value of our vertex, and I should remind you that our vertex we discuss as h comma k, all we do for the h value is we take negative b over 2a. And that's it. We don't have to find the zeros. We don't have to find what's in between. It will always be negative b over 2a. So let's go ahead and do that with our equation up above. And I'm just going to quickly match it up with this negative 2x squared plus 8x minus 9 so that you can see that our b value is 8 and our a value is negative 2. And so let's get to it. Okay. So negative b over 2 times a, where a was negative 2 and b was 8. And let's go ahead and simplify. Negative 8 divided by negative 4. Watch those negatives. They'll be the end of you on these problems. Negative 8 divided by negative 4 is positive 2. So I know then that my vertex is positive 2 comma something. And actually, I think that eliminates all of our answer choices already. We know it's going to be D, but we should understand where the negative 1 comes from, because on the actual final, I wouldn't be surprised if they gave you two answers with positive 2. So we know the h is 2. Now we need to go ahead and find that k value. Now, remember, h being 2 is actually an x value, 2 comma something. And if we have an x and we want to create a y, we just need to take the x and substitute it in for both the x's here, which means I'm going to take that f of x equation, negative 2, leave some blanks, and we are going to replace the x with our k value, which in this case was 2. From here, you are welcome to use your calculator. You'll get one on the final as well. Or if you want to follow PEMDAS, that's great. It's good practice for you. So just reminding you of PEMDAS. We want to do what's inside the parentheses first, but there's just a single number inside of each of the parentheses. There's nothing to simplify there. So next up we have to do the exponent, and the exponent I see is on the 2. So we keep the negative 2, we keep the 8 times 2, and the minus 9. 2 squared gets us 4. Now we've taken care of the exponent. Let's look at the multiplication next, left to right. Negative 8 positive 16. And last but not least, addition from left to right or subtraction. Negative 8 plus 16 will be positive 8, and 8 minus 9 looks like negative 1. And so we get a k value of negative 1, which does appear to match the only answer that it could match, D. So if you're asked to find the vertex of a function in standard form like this, you can find the zeros and add them together and divide by 2 or find what's in the middle of the zeros. However, it is almost always going to be faster to do the hk, where h is negative b over 2a, and k is just found by substituting in 2. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully that was helpful for the vertex, and keep on finding success on that Algebra 1 Semester 2 final exam.